Welcome to Sounding Board. This is a weekly community television program produced by club members of Soroptimist International of Novato. The mission of the organization is to improve the lives of women and girls, both locally and globally. Today we're going to go into the town of Novato here, where we have, I would wonder if you even know this number, 6 museums. Did you know that? 6 museums in Novato? Well, we have with us a special guest, Jim Crumpler, who is a personal friend of mine, as well as Jim is pretty well known for being a retired pharmacist from CVS. So, Jim, you found that there was something missing with the museums a few years ago, and you decided to do something about it. Well, tell us about it.
So a few years ago, when I retired from being a pharmacist, I got involved in 3 of the 6 museums in Novato. Novato is pretty special in that Novato is the only city in Marin County that actually has 6 museums. They're wonderful museums, but they're small, and they have problems with funding and volunteers. And when I looked at these 3 museums and looked at the other 3 museums that I wasn't involved with, they all had the same problem. And that problem was they were small, they needed funding, they needed more members. And I just thought, if these museums got together and joined an organization and worked together, they could accomplish a lot more together than they could individually. So I formed the Novato Museum Association, just a loose-knit group of these 6 museums. We get together every month or so. We pool our funds and get advertising together and work together for the common cause.
Great. Now today we're going to start with visiting the Novato History Museum right here downtown on, what's this, DeLong?
DeLong Avenue.
And what's that cross street?
And Reichert.
Reichert, okay, very good. Right across there from Whole Foods.
Exactly.
So anyway, we're going to go inside here, and we're going to meet with Susan Magnone, and she is the director.
She's the president of the Novato Historical Guild.
Historical Guild, and she plays a major role here with this museum,
yes, she does,
which is the History Museum. So tell us a little bit about this building.
This building is like the perfect venue for Novato History Museum. This building was actually built in about 1849, 1850 over on South Novato Boulevard across from the Methodist Church, just north of Yukon Way. It was built there by Ramon Pacheco, who was the son of Ignacio Pacheco, and he's the one that had the land grant south of Novato. And he got that land, Spanish land grant in the early 1800s. It was his son that built his house about 1849, 1850. It stayed there until 1972. And the reason it's called the Postmaster's House is from 1857 to 1872, Novato's first postmaster lived in this house.
Interesting. Inside, they've got a photograph of them hauling this building down up Old Redwood Highway.
Yeah, and in 1872, part of the mystery of this house was he was murdered mysteriously.
Ooh.
In 1872. So, and people that lived in this house afterward actually said they thought there was a ghost.
Ooh.
This house was moved here. It was sold to, Fernando Bobo, who owned a bunch of property in Novato in the 40s and 50s. He bought this house and he sold it to the city in 1972 with the promise that the city would move it.
Oh.
So this house was moved here from South Novato Boulevard to this spot in 1972. Took them four years to fix it up, and June 9th, 1976, they opened it as Novato History Museum.
Fabulous. Well, I'm excited to go inside. Are you?
All right, let's go.
We're ready? Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go. Well, here we are inside this History Museum. I love it. I love it. So,
welcome.
Susan,
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Let me tell you a little bit about it. First of all, this exists because of a partnership between the City of Novato and the Novato Historical Guild. The city owns the building and they maintain it. The guild provides the volunteer staff to maintain, to run it actually. And so it turns out to be a really good kind of partnership. This is the 40th year for the museum and for the guild, so it's been successful.
So it moved up here in the 1970, what did you say?
1972, the house was moved here. 1976, it opened.
So
Yeah.
since, that's right, 1970, so
Yeah.
that would be exactly 40 years. Huh?
Exactly.
Fabulous, fabulous, Susan. Tell us about the mission or whatever.
Okay, and think about what is the purpose of a history museum? Why would the city, put money into that, and we spend all of our time working on it? Well, the main reason for the history museum is to make available to the public, the historical information about Novato. Now, when we know our history, it helps to create a sense of community. It becomes our common heritage because it belongs to all of us, whether we've lived here our whole life or have just moved in. It's something we all have in common. And to me, that is the most important thing that a history museum does for the community, is to create that sense of we all belong here.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I agree. That's a great mission.
Yes.
So what would people see when they come in here? Give us a little bit of an overview.
Okay, well, we've got some treasures to show you, but first of all, I want to introduce you to a very special treasure, and this is Mrs. Anna Morrison. Anna works here.
Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Anna works here every Thursday.
Really?
She has been involved with the museum since it opened and was instrumental in getting it going in the first place. And she's 96 years old.
Oh my goodness. You
And-
are a treasure.
Yes, we really enjoy having her. She said, well, why do you want to show me? And I said, because I think it's so cool that we have someone who has been that
Exactly.
dedicated to the museum with us. Then to show us the rest of the treasures, I've asked one of our docents to come in. come on in. This is Sharon Azevedo. She's one of our third grade docents, and we have the
Hi, Sharon.
the third grade students come in the spring because it's part of their curriculum to learn about their community. And just think of what a wonderful way it is for them to learn about history rather than reading a textbook. So
Oh, that's right,
Sharon is
yeah.
one of the people who does the tour. And so she's going to give you a quick overview of what's in the museum.
Great. So Sharon, you look lovely dressed as a farmer's wife out of the 1800s.
Thank you.
And this is how you dress when you greet the third graders when they come over?
Yes, when they come in for their tours.
And so what do you tell them?
We teach them about Novato's history. So Novato, the area of Novato, was initially inhabited by the Miwok Indians. And then we had the ranchers, the Mexican ranchers came here, and they were called Californios. And here we have a painting of just one of those California ranchos with the adobes.
Oh,
Eventually
nice.
then, the area was divided up into 5 large land grants. And we have these beautiful portraits up here of Ignacio Pacheco and his wife. And he was actually granted one of those land grants by the Mexican government.
So Pacheco, that's where the name Pacheco comes from, Pacheco Valley.
and
Oh,
Ignacio,
cool.
named
Nice.
for the pioneers. Another large land grant was awarded to a gentleman named Fernando Velez of about 8,000 acres. This land passed through a few owners and was eventually purchased by Joseph Sweetser and Francis DeLong.
DeLong, just like the street
Just
name
like
right
DeLong
outside.
Avenue,
Oh,
yes.
how fun.
They planted an orchard. They planted an enormous orchard. They had about 20,000 apple trees. They had grapes, they had pear, they had peach, they had apricot. And we have this beautiful lithograph showing that large orchard in our Valley of Novato. In
It says
fact,
Sweetser and DeLong right there. Oh, nice.
it was said that Novato had the world's largest apple orchard at one
Nice.
time.
Now is this, which mountain is that right there?
That would be our Mount Verdell. Our Mount Verdell.
Excellent, excellent.
And also in our lithograph, it shows the home that was built and shared by Sweetser and DeLong. It was completed in 1856, and the home still stands in West Novato today.
Really?
Yes.
Is anyone living in it?
It's owned by a group called Opus Dei.
Oh,
So, yes.
oh, interesting. Let's move on down here.
we'll
What
move on
else
down.
do you have to show us?
Well, eventually they dissolved their partnership with DeLong retaining most of the acreage, but Sweetser kept 1 square acre.
I bet I know where that
1
is.
square mile.
It's 1 square mile.
1 square mile. And that actually is what is now our downtown
Yeah.
Novato. And here we have a plot map showing the lots for downtown Novato.
Uh-huh. And that was Sweetser who owned that, huh?
That was, well, Sweetser owned it, eventually was under the auspices of the Novato Land Company.
Okay, okay, good.
Here we have our
Ooh.
apple press.
Apple press.
It was very simple to operate. You just put the apples in here whole.
Whole.
This area would crush them. You would take that material, move it to here, and then it would press. And then you would get your apple juice or your apple to make your apple cider.
Kind of resembles a wine press.
I was going to say,
Grape
grapes
press.
are done the exact same way.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, okay.
now this section of our museum, we save for our changing exhibits. This gives us the ability to show in more detail certain aspects of the history of Novato. And as of now, you can see we have our train exhibit.
And I wonder why.
I wonder why. Well, when the students come in, they love to blow our train whistle. So Carol, would you like to blow our
I'd
whistle?
love
and hear
to.
the
This
train
is it,
coming?
huh? And this is actually a train, an old train whistle?
It's a replica.
Okay, I'm going to do it right now. Oh, I love it. Oh, great, thank you. I've always wanted to do
And
that.
it's fun because we're actually hearing that sound again with the coming of our smart train
Yeah.
to the area. Now down here, we have some rails. This teaches us about gauge.
Gauge.
Gauge is the width between the rails. At one time, there was no standard gauge. So in 1862, Abraham Lincoln set what we call standard gauge, which is 4 feet, 8.5 inches.
Now I've heard of narrow gauge railroads. Is that, that's where that comes from then, huh? That was a
Possibly,
narrow
yeah,
one.
yeah. So at that point, then the trains could travel throughout the United States. Previously, they couldn't go on all the different tracks because they weren't all the same
Interesting.
width. Now you'll notice we have something that's definitely not a historical artifact. But when the children visit, even though we know this is set at standard gauge, we like them to check for themselves.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Always a teachable moment. These are pictures of all the train stations that surrounded the area of Novato. We had the downtown station, we had Black Point, we had Ignacio, and even one at Hamilton Air Force Base when it was active.
Nice.
Those are all the different train stations.
Nice.
Of course, with trains, sometimes you have accidents. So down here, we show a few of the accidents that happened in Novato. Oftentimes, when we would have heavy rains, the tracks would flood and that would derail the trains. And
awful.
the trains then ran by steam. So unfortunately, some of the main injuries involved were burns.
Oh dear, how
train
tragic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, here
Uh-huh.
we have our physician's case. This was donated to our museum by the daughter of Dr. Ralph Weisman. Dr. Weisman was a longtime physician in Novato. He was instrumental in helping to get our first Novato Community Hospital, which opened in 1961.
Nice.
He actually made house calls. I grew up in Novato, so he came to our house a few
Really?
times. And when I mention that to the children, they're always a little surprised because they're not used to the doctor coming to them. They're used to have to go to the doctor.
Right.
But it's interesting when you look inside how the tools of the trade have changed over the years. So, and over here, I'd like to show you, this is our replica that we have of the Sweetster DeLong home.
Oh,
and as
lovely.
you can see, in the interior, it's decorated as it might have been when the family lived in it
How
in the late
cute.
1800s.
Oh my gosh, look at the detail.
In our display case over here are some items that might have been used in that home, including the coffee grinder, because coffee is always important. We have our wire rug beater, our washboard, and of course, we have our chamber pot. Because when the house was completed, they did not have indoor plumbing.
Oh dear. And where was the chamber pot kept? Was that under the bed or?
I would assume, when not in use. Now, Novato was also known for its chicken ranches and its dairies. At one time, Novato actually had 4 cheese factories.
Really?
In this display case, we actually have a casing for butter from the Burdell Creamery.
Burdell.
And we talked about Burnell Mountain. So
Oh, wait, Mount Burdell, the
Mount
same Burdell.
was
Oh my
named
goodness.
For a dentist, Galen Burdell.
A dentist with cream, and how did it get the mountain name? Must have been pretty famous in the community.
Now here, this is interesting. Talking about our chicken ranches, this came out of a barn on a chicken ranch out on Atherton Avenue.
Beautiful.
The interesting thing is what the chickens have done to it.
The chickens did
The
that?
chickens did that, trying to get all the chicken feet that had fallen on the floor.
Oh
So it is, it's
my
almost like an
gosh.
artwork.
It is, it's gorgeous.
In our display case here, you'll notice a very large alarm clock. That also was utilized in a chicken ranch on Atherton Avenue. And it was used on those dark, gloomy days to wake up the chickens so they could start laying the eggs.
You're kidding. Oh, on cue. Lay those eggs.
In this display case, we have an interesting item. It was called a third leg stool.
Has only one leg, as far as I can see.
When the dairy ranchers would go out and milk before they had the nice big dairy barns, as you can see in this photo here, the cows were just mulling around. So the ranchers had to go up and to each individual cow. Well, they needed to have their hands free. So what they would do is they would attach a stool like this to them. It would be hanging behind them. And so as they would go to each cow, as they would go down to milk, it would create a third leg. So they literally carried their stool with them so that they would have their hands free.
Amazing.
And you can actually visualize that in this photo here. Now this beautiful picture up here was taken around 1920, and it's of the DeBorba Ranch, which was located on Olive Avenue. It is now the Deer Island Open Space Preserve, which is a Marin County park, so everyone can go out and enjoy this beautiful space. The home pictured there is actually still standing on the property. Yeah. So Carol, I really enjoyed giving you this short tour of our museum.
And this is the downstairs that you presented. Is there any more?
There is more.
Really?
Yes, we have a little bit more upstairs that I know Susan would like to share with you.
Okay.
But I'd also like to say when visitors come, we'd like them to come and know that they can take their leisure and go around and really enjoy our exhibits.
I want to come back because you've really whet my appetite for it all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, this is totally different up here. Susan, what goes on up here?
Well, Carol, this is the archive room, and this is where we store historical documents, and it's mainly used for research. And because of the significance of the documents, people cannot just come up here and look through things. They have to make an appointment and have a docent assist them.
So they just can't wander up from downstairs
Right.
and okay.
Yeah.
So an appointment is necessary to
Sorry.
come up here. Very secret stuff, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah. And this is my favorite room because I
Ah.
enjoy seeing what all the different documents are up here. To tell us about them a little bit, we've got some treasures. Bill Damon is a Guild volunteer.
Hi, Bill.
Hi there.
And he has taken on the task of cataloging, organizing, and preserving all of our historical maps and some of our historical documents. He's got two treasures that we have he's going to show you.
Good. This is exciting.
So these are really incredible treasures here. The first thing that we're looking at here is what's called a plat map of the original Rancho Novato. A plat map is actually a legal document. It was used in a court case when the United States government came in to challenge all the Mexican land grants.
Wow.
So that brings us over to our second artifact here, which is called a land grant patent. This is the culmination of the entire court case, 14-year court case that went on.
And that's the original document?
This is the original document.
With the coffee stains on it and all, huh?
With coffee stains and all. It is signed actually by the President of the United States, Andrew Johnson.
Wow.
A land grant patent stated that the land grant has been approved. It is now theirs, the owner's, he can do whatever he wants with it.
Interesting.
And so these are two really incredible documents. This is from 1866 and this is from 1859. And so it's kind of a chore to keep these documents, well preserved and stuff like that. So
Do a lot of people ask to see them, or?
every once in a while somebody does come in and ask to see things like
bet,
this.
I bet.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, thank
We're
you for
really proud to
sharing
have
these.
these.
Yeah, I bet. And you have lots more things like this of equal value.
Yeah.
Wow.
All over there.
So Susan, what more do you have to share?
Well, here's what's the most popular thing up here are photographs. We have these two cabinets are full of old photographs of Novato. They have to do with Novato. The oldest ones are from the 1880s and the 1890s, which is
Of people or places or?
most of them are of people and streets and buildings. Those are the main ones that we have. I'll give you an example. I just happened to have pulled, we have a file here called Grant Avenue pre-1940. And if someone wanted to come up, I'd pull it out for them. And then they could look through this and see pictures of what Novato was like and how Grant Avenue grew over time.
Oh my. How fun. So a docent would be here to kind of walk you through and help you identify some of the locations and have an orientation to it. Fabulous. What a resource. Susan, you're wonderful.
Well,
you and your staff.
These to us, so it's really great. Now, the other thing that we have that's maybe a little more current, but it's really important to our history, is our oral histories. We have, these are interviews. We have over 90 currently there, but we're starting to continue them so that we will be adding to the oral histories. And these are interviews with people who have lived in Novato and just sharing their memories about what it was like. It's one of the things we're working on now with them is to make a searchable database by topics, so that if someone wanted to hear about what happened on Grant Avenue, we can list those who talked about that in their interview. It's a very personal way to learn about what happened in Nevada and what life was like here.
So if anyone listening to this program would say, gee, I've lived here for a long time and they don't know my history, could they contact you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, mainly they can contact the museum or contact me through the Historical Guild. I have 2 young women who are doing these interviews now, and we'd be glad to talk with them.
How fabulous.
Yeah.
So what a nice way for students doing some homework or something like that to make history live for them.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of gets at the future. For, you know, we may be a history museum, but we really have to be looking at the future and where we need to go. And one of the main thing we need to do now is what we call digitize our collection, and that means to put things online. We have a website, it's called novatohistory.org, and we want to put some of these photographs online there. But the big thing we want to do is to put all of the oral histories on there.
Oh,
so
yes.
that, let's say, a high school student has to do a report on the Great Depression. Well, they're probably not going to make an appointment to come down here. That's just not the way we get information this day.
Not kids, no.
No. So what they can do is go to our website, you know, click on oral histories, type in the Depression, and up will come the names of the people who have talked about living in Nevada during the Depression. And they can listen to those stories.
And this is the future you're talking about. It isn't right now. They shouldn't expect to see that now, but the very near future, and that's what you represent is the future.
Yes. And what we want to say about it is when they can listen to people's stories like that, that makes it personal and it makes it local history. And that's the kind of history we want to make available to the public.
Great. That is fabulous, Susan. So is there anything more that we should be talking about before we leave? Because I know Jim's waiting for us downstairs.
I know, and I know you have other museums to go to. I think you've gotten a great overview of what we have, and we make sure people know we're open for them to come and explore.
This has been just fabulous. Thank you very, very much, Susan.
Thank you.
So we look forward to seeing the future come to life. Good.
Give us a couple months.
Well, that was really, really interesting. And Jim, did you enjoy that too?
That was terrific.
And I thank you so much for arranging this visit to the History Museum. And you know, I think it was kind of interesting. I don't know if you caught this or not, but Sharon is dressed in the past and Susan is dressed in the present, and they're both very much looking forward to the future.
It's great.
And that's the story of the History Museum. Well, actually, the History Museum is just one of 6, though. One of 6. And how many people in the community even know?
Nobody.
Nobody. No, I know.
My friends don't even know.
So run it down here.
So there's 6 museums in Novato. We start in the north. There's Olompali State Park, which has a museum. Then you come down to the Museum of American Indian. That's the Miwok Museum, what everybody calls. Then you come over here to the Novato History Museum. Then you start heading south, and you hit Ignacio, and that's a space station museum. Go into Hamilton, the first thing you come to is Marin MoCA. That's the Marin Museum of Contemporary Art. And then you end up at the Hamilton Field Museum.
The 6th one. Excellent, excellent.
And so one of those we will be headed to next time.
That's right, that's right. Well, Jim, again, I admire all that you have done here for the city and the community of Novato. And as a retired pharmacist, I think this is just a fabulous, totally different take on what you're doing in life. It's much to be admired. So Besides thanking you, I would like to thank Pam Hesley and all the crew at Novato Community Television. I would like to thank Freda Kaplan. She is the Soroptimist member who's the manager of all the Sounding Board programs. But most of all, I want to thank you, the viewing audience. Well, goodbye, you guys.